Today is Thursday, February 1st, and I'm here with my guy, Frankie Vittorini from U Stadium to talk about the NFL, but we're specifically going to start off with our beloved New York Jets, who were absolutely throttled in the media this week by a scathing article in The Athletic by Diana Rossini and Zach Rosenblatt, who covers the team for the Jets for the Athletic. But I want to start off and say, hello, Frankie. How you doing, man?
My dude, how are you, my man? The drama never stops ever, dude. We got to deal with stuff during the season, now after the season. Now after all the coaches got hired, we still have to deal with coaching drama. It's just it never ends, never ends.
The offseason never stops providing stories, especially for the New York Jets. I think a lot of Jets Twitter celebrates the offseason. It's our Super Bowl, the offseason for Jets fans, where we get to talk about the dysfunction of this team and get the hype of the offseason moves and things like that. Jets Twitter is unlike anything else. I don't care what anyone says.
Oh no,
So
it's wild, man.
yesterday was
It's
an
another
all-time
world.
moment, I would say, when this article came out. A lot of Jets fans already gave their takes about it. Now we got to digest it 24 hours after this thing came out. So Frankie, I want to start off with your biggest takeaways from this article column, and what did you make of the stuff being said about Saleh? The team is a bleeping mess. Nathaniel Hackett did not come out great in this thing. So just give me your overall take on how you felt about this article.
Yeah, Ryan, I think, listen, we all wanted Salah out during the season, right? And we were looking into the offseason as an opportunity to move on from him. This was the reason why. Jet fans, we were right the entire year. We do not want this guy around anymore. And this article just literally said everything to what we've been saying all year. He has no control. He's not a leader. The players are starting to not respect him. He does not know what's going on in that locker room, man. He lost control. Maybe it started with Zach Wilson. Maybe he gave him some confidence. Then he took it away. Then he gave it back. Then things went to shit. Then Aaron Rodgers is here trying to save the day. This isn't how you run an organization, man. Now they're saying he's paranoid. They need to get rid of the guy. I don't care if they do it tonight. They should have done it 2 months ago. I don't care if they do it or they should have done it a month ago. I don't care if they do it in another month. You got to get rid of the guy. This is not the right guy to lead the ship. Just cut your losses, because this is not a head coach that is going to command respect from his players. He's lost that. It's like shattering a glass. You can't put it back together. We need to move on. It's done. I don't see what other option do we have.
Well, I think when you have the owner come out before the final 2 weeks of the season and say Saleh's coming back, Rodgers coming back, Douglas coming back, we're all shooting for this thing again. This basically reaffirmed, in my opinion, this article reaffirmed what we all thought about this team, is that they all panicked when Rodgers went down 4 plays in. They said a oh bleep moment of, now what do we do? Zach Wilson was never supposed to be the starting quarterback this year for most of the games. And he was supposed to have a redshirt year, learn behind Aaron Rodgers. And I think they're using that as their crutch for what happened this past season. It's sad that we're seeing this now with quotes and from how this story was quote unquote vetted by sources and former coaches, assistant coaches. There's a lot of layers, I feel like, to this. But yeah, the big thing I take away is the Robert Saleh stuff. The Robert Saleh stuff is not great to look at. The fact that he's researching, or at least this is what according to the story says. I should say this again and again with you, Frankie, is that for all we know, this story could be 70% true, 30% made up. It could be not true at all. But you kind of have to take Diana and Zach for their word a little bit, because they do their homework. They do their research. They are connected to the team. So I don't know how much stock I want to put into everything that's said in this thing. But the thing that's most alarming is when you hear that Robert Saleh is researching other great coaches that coached without their starting quarterback that lost to injury and what their record was. And when I hear that Saleh has a picture of Aaron Rodgers carrying out the American flag on his phone, and
Oh my God.
he's the one always saying positive vibes only in the building, but meanwhile, in the same breath, he says it'd be a miracle if we win 8 games with Zach Wilson as our quarterback. So what is it? What is Robert Saleh what is he expecting when he's trying to defend himself here, I guess, to the people in that building and say, I lost my quarterback. So now what are my expectations? We can't make the playoffs. We can't win with Zach Wilson. So it's a really messy outlook for him and the type of coach he is and how he's supposed to lead these men.
Well, Ryan, what I want to say is, do you remember what Joe Beningo said about about what Robert Saleh was saying with Zach Wilson? All of the stuff that Joe Beningo was saying on WFAN about how Robert Saleh was looking things up. He was looking at like records of head coaches after their first 3 years. We're seeing the exact same thing now in this article. It's the same thing. This guy is so insecure about his head coaching ability that he just needs to make excuses. And he's looking at different data to, justify why he's not
Right.
a good head coach. Forget about being very good or Super Bowl worthy, just good enough to just keep a job, which at this point, you can't give him a job, man. He doesn't deserve one. You can't let him keep this job. He's going to burn this thing into the ground. It already looks like people are burning alive right now. You got to set the fire out. It's time.
But I think since you've already committed to him being the coach for the next season, for him, and I think it's one of those things. It's like, it doesn't need to be spoken. And it clearly Robert Saleh needed to keep re-emphasizing this. And this made him feel better about his position, is that you guys all know I got dealt a bad hand because I've never had a quarterback as my 3 years as a head coach with the Jets. The one that we did get is Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Famer, but he went down in 4 plays. So I never really got an opportunity to coach this team with a real quarterback. We know that. We all agree to that. But when we hear this in the story that you're holding a picture up to players and coaches saying, this is it, man. This was the guy. This was going to lead us to victory. Dude, what are you talking about? Like, you gotta know, like, you have to adjust. I heard a great discussion this week by DiPietro and Roethlisberger on their morning show, and they were talking about, look at what the Browns did, right? Deshaun Watson goes down with an injury, out for the season. They pivoted. And brought Joe Flacco in. We had Joe Flacco in the building last season, and he knows the weapons somewhat that he's playing with. He would have been the perfect guy to bring in. The Jets just didn't pivot. They did not go for a true veteran quarterback to back up Aaron Rodgers, and it bit them in the ass. And we all know that. It's
The
frustrating.
Zach Wilson experiment, Rye. The Zach Wilson experiment failed tremendously, because not only is it affecting the team when he's playing, now it's affecting the team when he's not playing, and it's going to affect us going forward into the offseason. It just is. That's what happens when you bust on a pick that high. Now you should do what the 49ers do and just cut your losses like they did with Trey Lance as soon as possible. But with Zach Wilson, he's still here. He's still on the team. I don't understand.
I mean, he'll be traded this offseason. He will.
I know. I hope so, man. He's got to get out. He's been burning us, and he's a bad leader. He's a bad quarterback, and this coach supported him and didn't, and that sends bad messages. We got rid of Elijah Moore and Michael
That was
Carter.
a messy part of this article too, is how the Jets handled that Zach Wilson situation. The fact that Robert Saleh had to tuck his tail between his legs to come back to Zach after he saw Trevor Siemian firsthand how bad he played, and said, oh, we need you back. We need you starting again. Even after we told you we're going to trade you in the offseason and we're not going to play the rest of the year. It's just embarrassing. And it's a total dysfunction, to your point, of how they handle that situation. And all you could do as a Jets fan is hope they get it right this season, right? You get a real veteran backup quarterback. But, other part of this article that I think, besides Robert Saleh being the target here of how misguided and how inappropriately he handled this entire situation with Rodgers and him going down in the backup quarterback situation, Nathaniel Hackett is getting killed in this article about how unprepared this offense was, about how he wasn't willing to adjust after Rodgers went down. The assistant coaches are blaming him for not communicating to him what the game plan is going to be. The players like Alan Lazard is calling his coach out, basically saying our offense doesn't adjust. You heard Garrett Wilson's comments at the end of the season saying, offenses look a lot easier on the other sideline. I don't know why ours is looking like the way it is. It can't happen like this anymore. So it's all not good with Nathaniel Hackett. That's Aaron Rodgers' guy. So there's two lines of thought here, and this is how I took it. Nathaniel Hackett needs help. He needs help. And I think they said in the article that Aaron Rodgers apparently is part of those conversations of how do we improve this offense and how do we help Nathaniel Hackett get this offense to improve. And the other part is that the Jets hired two new assistant coaches. They hire a new running backs coach and they hire a new wide receivers coach. So was that part of this article of them burning Hackett a little bit because maybe those quotes came from those assistant coaches who are no longer part of this team? That's other thing that I think about when I read something like this. I don't know how you
I
felt
think
about
it's
that,
either
Frankie.
those two it's either those two coaches that got let go. It's one of those two, or it's Jeff Ulbrich, because he never gets put under the bus in any of these stories. So whenever you see something coming out from the Athletic, Ulbrich always gets the pass. He's never, rarely ever brought up. So I'm curious to see what that connection is there. But hey, man, Saleh wants your phone though, right? Like isn't that a grown person thing to do? That's like what you do to your child who's 5 years old if they take your phone. Or that's what you would do if you're like an immature person in a relationship. You're going to take someone's phone and try to look through it. This guy, man, I don't, Woody Johnson, I think, is finally starting to see the light a little bit. And that's also why there's all this speculation about why the Jets social
Let's talk
media didn't
about it,
give him a
Frankie.
happy birthday. Yeah, the Jets social media, I think, for 12 straight years has given happy birthday tweets out to, by the way, some of the worst head coaches in the history of football, starting with Adam Gase. Actually, it started with Rex Ryan.
Start with
Then it went,
Rex.
it
Yeah.
started with Rex. We hit on Gase and Todd Bowles. I mean, we hit on Bowles first, but and Saleh had 3 years running in a row, man. 3 years of happy birthday. But today or yesterday, he did not get his happy birthday tweet. And people are speculating whether or not the Jets are moving on from Robert Saleh because there
What
is no happy birthday tweet
do
for
you
him this
feel they're
year.
going to move on from Robert Saleh this offseason?
Honestly, I think they will. I think this article, I think this article was the straw that broke Woody Johnson's back, because there was speculation about this throughout the season about him losing the locker room. You had some reports from the Athletic with Zach, stuff that you as an owner never want to see. Now, this, with their 30 sources in the locker room confirming some of this stuff, this is really bad. This is egg on your face or pie on your face. What's the saying?
It's egg on your face.
Egg on your face, right? This is egg on. I was watching the Bill Gates when he got pied in the face last night, the video, so it's like in my mind. But this is egg on your face for an owner, and this is bad. This is a bad look, not only for you, but for your sponsors, for other players that you may want to attract. And who the hell wants to come into a team like this? How are you going to lure a free agent to take equal amounts of money to come play for this organization with this coach? So this just affects a lot more things than just it's just a bad article. I mean, this has repercussions financially and in the win-loss column for your team. So Woody Johnson, I think, saw this and said, you know what? Maybe enough is enough. And I think he did. I think he's starting to see the light. I think they may come to an agreement where maybe Saleh doesn't get fired, but Saleh says to himself, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to resign. This is a hot take,
No,
but
no, yeah, that's a hot take, man. No way he's
does
resigning.
Saleh want to come back? My question to you is
Yeah,
this. I was
yeah.
thinking about this lesson. Does Saleh want to coach this team next year? Does Saleh want to stand in front of those same media members that have been trying to burn him all year? The people that have went publicly about stuff he was privately texting them. Do you think Robert Saleh wants to be here? Because I don't think he does. I don't think Saleh wants to be here anymore. And I think Woody Johnson, seeing this article, probably doesn't want him coaching here. So I think, listen, it's a hot take, but I'm telling you, there's a possibility that they just agree to part ways. They don't think it's going to work out. They may put Ulbrich in as head coach. He might get promoted. And then, or they may look at one of these other guys. You have Vrabel still available. I'm not the biggest Vrabel guy, but
Why would one of those guys want to step into that situation? Let's be real here for a second. If Saleh were to get fired, why would one of those outside candidates want to come into this situation with Aaron Rodgers, Nathaniel Hackett, bad
it is a
offensive
win.
line?
It is a win now job, isn't it? Isn't it
Yeah,
a
but
team that could
there's
win
no
the Super
guarantee
Bowl
though.
potential?
Once if you don't make the playoffs, you and Douglas are out the doors next year. So it could be a 1 year tryout. So I think that's why, honestly, I don't think Woody Johnson's going to make a move, and I don't think that Saleh's going to be fired. I think it's going to all cool off a little bit we'll get through the offseason. Joe Douglas is going to make some moves. He's going to try to address this offensive line. He's going to get weapons for Aaron Rodgers, and all is going to be well again. And then we're going to be heading to the offseason, into the training camp, all hyped up again about this Jets team. I really do think of that.
You
I
don't
think
feel it though, Ryan? Don't you feel
you
something weird
feel,
going on? There, it
listen,
feels
this is
like
New
there's
York.
something going on.
I think it's New York. It's the media. We talk this up, but at the same time, what I would say is that Robert Saleh, I think, does want to be here because he wants to have that one opportunity with Aaron Rodgers fully healthy for an entire season and give him a chance, give him his fair shot. And that's what I'm going to go in with, that mentality as a Jets fan watching this team. I'm going to go in with the mentality of give this guy a fair shot. I don't think he's a good coach, to be honest with you. I think he might be average to below average as a coach, but
I think he's below average to bad.
maybe, guess what? We'll find out next season. And I do want them to get a legit backup quarterback, whether it be a Tannehill or something, or Jacoby Brissett, someone that can win you football games. So that way when Aaron does go down, because I'm gonna bet on more than likely he'll miss a couple of games next year, Aaron Rodgers. It just happens with 40-year-old quarterbacks and a questionable offensive line, to say the least. So
Do you think we should look at the draft for a quarterback? Because I'm
no,
telling you, we don't have enough picks necessarily. We don't have a second rounder.
we don't have a second
I,
rounder. I have
we
a
have two
solution, by the way, to
fourths.
the draft.
But I'm saying this. If you think that Aaron Rodgers is going to not be able to finish the season, or it's just not worth us investing so much in this 2-year window due to his age and some of these, reports about
Yeah.
our coaching staff, which seems like they can't get, they'll never get to a point where they'll lead us to a Super Bowl. Why not start the process now of scouting a
Because
quarterback, drafting one later, seeing what you got, like the 49ers did with Brock Purdy? You
right.
never know what could happen.
I could
And
I could
listen,
give
it's
you sorry,
yeah.
no, I mean,
No, no, go, 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 go.
I think there's no way Joe Douglas, who knows his career is on the line, he's going to draft a quarterback again.
Is
Because
that true though? Do
what do
you
you
really
mean?
think Joe Douglas has 1 year left? It could be
If
Joe
they don't make the
Douglas is
playoffs,
Woody's
everyone's
guy.
gone. Everyone's gone if they don't make the playoffs this year. So I think if Joe Douglas is all in like he is, I think he's going to try to do everything in his power to help support the offense, try to be successful this season. They have the pieces for the defense. It's about addressing this offensive issues. Um, I think why would they take a quarterback when the new regime will probably want their own quarterback to bring in when this event eventually gets to the place we don't want it to get to, but that's where it most likely is heading. When they clean house, that new regime is going to want their own quarterback, own head coach, and all that stuff. So I think that's why they won't take a quarterback. Listen, if they make the playoffs this year, I think you'll look at next offseason, they will take a quarterback in probably the first or second round with whatever that pick is.
Oh
But
man,
just
that'll
getting back
be
to wrapping up this entire article here. I don't think Robert Saleh is going to get fired. I think obviously his character is coming to question here. His coaching style is coming into question. And there's a lot that he's going to have to address probably in the coming weeks and months here. And I think Jets fans are probably going to be at their end, like they are with everything else in this team. That the quarterback's on his last string, the coach is on his last string, and this GM is probably on his last string here too. So it's all about next season, man. That's why I keep going this mentality
yeah.
of it's all about next season. Just win games, win a bunch of games, man.
I'm just saying, my man, do not be surprised. Do not be surprised if there's a mutual parting of ways. I'm not saying I think for sure it's going to happen, but it definitely could happen. I'm telling you, this article is no joke. And honestly, to me, I don't really care much about the article because I know who Robert Saleh is. I know that he's just a defensive coordinator masking as a head coach. I know that New York isn't the right market for him due to some of his personality traits and him being too nice. I know all this. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want him coaching this team next year. I don't like to root for people to get fired, but with him, I'm there, honestly. But Woody Johnson needs this article for him to go over the top and make this firing or mutual
Pull the trigger.
Yeah, exactly, to pull the trigger. I just this is bad stuff, man. This is bad stuff. You have a lot of people involved too.
You do. The other thing, again, the thing that I took was interesting is the front office came out clean, squeaky clean in this entire article, which I found interesting.
Oh yeah,
So it
yeah.
makes you
Maybe
wonder where exactly these,
Joe Douglas might be the leak. Mr.
or
Potato
the
Head, they call
former
him.
assistant GM that is no longer part of the team, and Rex Hogan. That's my, just saying, think about it. Think
Ding
about
ding
it.
ding ding.
Think about it. All right, let's move on to our next topic here, Frankie. The Washington Commanders, finally, the last team to fill out their head coaching position,
Wah
hire
wah
Cowboys
wah.
defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. Uh, Obviously, Dan Quinn, we know him from Atlanta, the famous 28-3 Super Bowl loss to the Patriots. But Dan Quinn had a great defense in Dallas. Now he comes to the Commanders with Adam Peters as his GM. They have the number 2 overall pick. They have $70 million in cap space. They got some
Nice.
pieces on the offense. The defense was not good, obviously. So, what is your takeaways from Dan Quinn now taking that job with the Washington Commanders?
You know what, man? I'll say this. I know a lot of people are clowning this hire. I've been seeing a lot of people sort of like crapping on it a bit. I like the hire. I do. I don't think it's anything special. But listen, Dan Quinn had a nice little run in Atlanta. Dan Quinn went to a Super Bowl and should have won a Super Bowl in Atlanta. You know, Dan Quinn went 11-5, went 10-6. His first year he went 8-8. I mean, Dan Quinn is a good coach in football. The Cowboys this year had one of the better defenses in the game. Granted, they looked awful in the playoffs, so that sort of, doesn't sound all that, good right now to talk about Dan Quinn's, defensive prowess. But there's a reason Atlanta played well and he should have won a Super Bowl. And he knows how
Kyle
to coach
Shanahan runs the ball.
defense. Yeah. So if they can get the offensive side right, which is a big if, I think he's like a newish Ron Rivera kind of hire. Is he going to strike lightning in a bottle there like we always speak about? Probably not, but he's experienced. He's been around the game for a while. He knows a lot of people in the NFL. That stuff matters. Listen, if it was up to me, I would have paid Ben Johnson, if I'm Washington, as much as he wanted. I would have forced him, Ben Johnson. I would have gave him an offer. As you say, you can't refuse. So, but I like Dan Quinn. I do. And I like him better than anyone else that was available, like an Aaron Glenn or even a Bill Belichick. I would have liked I like Dan Quinn because he teaches sound football and he's aggressive on defense. And when he coached and should have won a Super Bowl, he had one of the best offenses in the game. So he's well-rounded. Is he a great hire? No. Is he going to a bad team? Yes. But experience is experience, and he's got a lot of respect around the league. So I don't think it's as bad as people are saying.
Yeah, I think it's a solid hire. I don't think it's anything spectacular. It's a good first hire for Adam Peters, and it's a good move for when you're picking this new quarterback that's going to lead your franchise number 2, most likely Drake May or even Jaden Daniels. Whatever they choose, that's going to be the face of their franchise. Dan Quinn's going to have that chance to lead and hopefully rebuild that defense. It's a division in the NFC East that's not easy to win. Philadelphia, even though they've gone some turmoil in the offseason, they still have a solid, really, really solid roster. The Giants, who knows what happens with them. And then the Cowboys, their roster is insane. And, I don't think they have a great head coach, but they still have an insane roster. So, Dan Quinn will have an opportunity to make his name, to make a dent in that NFC East and in a very weak NFC conference, if we're being honest. But
very weak,
yeah,
man.
I don't mind the hire at all. All right, final thing, real quick. I'm gonna go off the top of my head here. We are set for the Super Bowl in a little over a week and a half.
Yes,
What
sir.
are your initial feelings right now of how this game's gonna go?
I think it's KC, my man. I think KC, just the writing's on the wall. I'll say this, and I was saying this on Dexter's show last week. I've never seen a quarterback, I don't think, play as well as Patrick Mahomes. Honestly, you could put Tom Brady right there too. That guy he's always in the right spot. He's always throwing it to the right, to the right part of the field. He's moving in the pocket, finding lanes perfectly in the pocket. He's a perfect quarterback. If he was maybe a little faster, but I mean,
He scrambles well.
No, he scrambles very well. But I'm saying, like, if he had a little bit more speed, he'd be like 100 out of 100, like you made him in a factory kind of quarterback. That's it though. He does everything. He could roll right, calm and collective, just throw it left. I mean, nothing's ever affecting him. He doesn't get rattled in the pocket. It's like he's just playing on air in like a 2-minute drill. It's crazy, man. He like you do at practice. I'm saying he's unreal, dude.
I know.
He's unreal. So I just think he's too good. I do think San Francisco's going to put together a game plan though, because Kyle Shanahan has lost a Super Bowl and he was part of that. You know, just the Dan Quinn debacle, 28 to
Yeah, he
3.
lost the last Super Bowl to the Chiefs. Mahomes' first
Yeah,
one.
yeah. So I think he's gonna do whatever the hell he can to win that game. So I think it's gonna be very close, and I think it'll come down, honestly, if I had to make a prediction, to the last drive of the game. We'll have a show before
Okay.
that. I think the last drive of the game, Kansas City wins it, field goal. They do the Vinatieri special, and we all got to see Taylor
Away we
Swift
go.
kissing Kelsey in midfield, and maybe he might propose to her. So, I know you're gonna like that if that happens. So,
I look forward to it.
what do you got?
I got Chiefs. Chiefs are going to beat the 49ers. They just you can't bet against Patrick Mahomes. That's what I learned. So
That's
it
it,
is what
bro.
it is. All right, Frankie, we appreciate you, man. Always giving us some time. I know this Jets team will keep giving us stories in the offseason. Looking forward to seeing what happens. I don't think Robert Saleh is going. Frankie says, keep an eye. Maybe something's going to happen here. Appreciate you as always, man.
Hey, you're the best, right? I appreciate you, brother.